Here is country of Grenada.
So hi and assalamualaikum. Today we're gonna talk about the one country. It's called Grenada. Have you even heard about this country? So let's talk about it. Grenada is an island nation in the West Indies. So the nickname is the Island of Spice. So it is the southmost island in the north-south of the Lazy Antilles, located in the eastern Caribbean, about 300 miles north of the Venezuelan coast. The oval island is 34 km long and 19 km wide. So the southern Grenadines are the largest Caricou. Caricou is located about 20 miles northern and covering an area of the 13 square miles. So the center of the St. George on the southwest coast is also a major harbor with a beautiful nature harbors and quite special color house towering over from hills the waterfront. The waterfront is itself called and known as the Carnage because it's an island schooners where ones care for their beach and cleaning and repair. So St. George is the center of the signing and charter boats in the Eastern Caribbean. In 1974, Grenada became the independent within the Commonwealth of Nations and joined the United Nations. It was the first of the 6 West Indian member states. So this is about Grenada. Do you get it? So let's talk about the economy of Grenada. Economy Grenada is a small, open economy that is primarily tourism-based. So over the past 2 decades, Grenada economy focus have shifted from agriculture to the services, with the tourism becoming a major foreign currency earner. So the country is the main export crop, the spices, nutmeg, and we also know Grenada is the second largest producer of the nutmeg in the world after the Indonesia. So other exports of fruits are cocoa, citrus, bananas, guava, and cinnamons. So the manufacturing in Grenada is predominantly small scales and include the production of the foods, product, textile, and the assembly of the electronic component for exports. So after slow growth and the physical adjustment in the early 1990s, economic growth accelerated in the late 1990s. So despite expansionary fiscal policy, public debts remain at around 50% is GDP, with some of the deficit being financed by the privatization. Since 2001, economic growth has slowed. The decline was caused by negative shocks such as the global economic slowdown and the natural disaster. So fiscal policy has become more expansionary to deal with shocks, while privatization revenues has declined. As a result, public debts scored to nearly 110% of GDP in 2003. When the hurricane event hits the country in September 2004, economic condition deteriorates, government revenue declines, and the policy prioritized the shift to the post-hurricane life, so hampering progress on the fiscal consolidation. So reconstruction is progressing rapidly with the tremendous support from the international community, but the tourism and the agriculture activity remain weak, almost offsetting the momentum of the reconstruction boom. So the country continues to face the daunting challenge of the reconstruction and recovery. Public debt is unsustainable, and the government faces a major financial shortfalls. In the year to come, revitalizing growth is a top priority, and more effort are needed to address the vulnerabilities. So what can conclude, there is the employment problem that Grenada has done. So the one of the reason is the lack of jobs to opening. So that's all for the economy for the Grenada.
I would like to talk about definition of employment. The term employment refers to a state in which an individual actively seeks employment but is unsuccessful. It is said to be one of the critical measures of the economic strength. The employment rate is the most widely used method to determine a country's employment rate. This can be found by simply diving the number of people without job by the total population included in a nation labor force. Okay. Employment is also national and local government of the endeavor to offer employment opportunity to the certain people who meet the eligibility criteria set by them. Usually, work is valid for a group of individuals upon a fixed minimum wage sufficient for various survive and provide future chance for them to find a permanent job. These efforts are made to improve the country's economy and reduce the overall unemployment rate. Unemployment and the status of the economy can be influenced by a country through, for example, physical policy. Next, the monetary authority of a country, such as a central bank, can influence the ability and the cost of the money through in the monetary policy.
Next, we move to types of unemployment. In addition to unemployment theory, several unemployment classifications are used to more accurately model the effects of unemployment within the economic system. The main types of unemployment include structural unemployment, frictional unemployment, cyclical unemployment, involuntary unemployment, and traditional unemployment. Structural unemployment focuses on the underlying problems of the economy and the inefficiencies inherent in the labor market, such as the mismatch between the demand and supply of workers with the necessary skill. Structural arguments highlight the costs and solutions associated with disruptive technology and globalization. The frictional unemployment argument focuses on voluntary choice about work based on an individual evaluation of one's job, which reduces the time and effort required to find a job relative to current wage rates. Cost and solution of frictional unemployment are often related the thresholds for entry into the labor force and wage rates. The welfare of the population is the ultimate objective of achieving economic growth and development. Therefore, comprehensive and regular information on social indicators such as unemployment and poverty are necessary to assess the success of policies for achieving economic growth and development. In the budget statement for 2022, the unemployment rate was reported at 16.6% at the end of June 2021, declining from 28.4% in June 2020. The information was based on the labor force surveys conducted by the Statistics Department. The data showed that there was a decline in unemployment between 2020 and 2021. At the end of the first quarter of 2019, the overall unemployment rate stood at 15.1%. In 2020, at the end of the first quarter, unemployment was 18.5%, and by the second quarter of 2021, the unemployment rate was 16.6%. This is highlighted in the following table. In analyzing the unemployment data, it is important to include the basis of calculating the rate of unemployment. The unemployment rate is determined by the number of persons unemployed divided by the labor force. Types of unemployment in Grenada. Grenada uses cyclical unemployment. This is also known as demand deficient unemployment. Is the biggest cause of unemployment that typically happens during a recession. When companies experience a reduction in the demand for their product or services, they respond by cutting back on their production, making it necessary to reduce their workforce within the organization. During the downswing of the trade cycle, aggregate demand falls, and via the multiplier effect, the national income falls further. Hence, consumption falls, production reduces, companies may close down, and workers are laid off, resulting in cyclical unemployment. In effect, workers are laid off.
I would like to explain to you guys about causes of unemployment. Some of causes of employment in Grenada. First, lack of available jobs. There are many skilled or unskilled jobs in Grenada. Grenada is not an industrial economy. The country imports most of its goods, import more than export. For example, food import account for more than a quarter of Grenada's total import. In addition, the contingent of civil servants is understaffed. For example, the education sector is really saturated. On the other hand, the private sector grew slowly due to the economy downtown and hardly hire some employment. Next is family dependency. Some young people apply for the jobs many times but are not successful, get bored and don't search anymore. After that, they start looking for work because most of their family abroad supported them financially. As such, it relied heavily on deposit from family members. Not job information was available. Many young people look for a job that are not available, so they do not want to settle for fewer jobs, preferring to be unemployed and stay at home. Moreover, experience and qualification. This has been very controversial issue for many years. There are many young people who have degree but have no experience in specific position. On the other hand, there are young people who do not have the necessary qualification for a certain job, and even if they do know how to do it, they do not have other opportunity because they do not have the necessary qualification.
So there are a few effects of employment in Canada. The first one is social. It's difficult to calculate the social cost of employment. High level of employment can cause people from one country to migrate to other country in search of work, and as a result, the country have a high rate of brain drains. People may also leave a rural area and migrate to urban area for a better standard of living. This can lead to densely populated and clustered urban area or experiencing mega urbanism. If people do not receive wage, they may turn to the other illegal means such as drug, theft, and so on to meet their economic needs, or they may turn to crime of a border. So the second one is a business. High employment rates in a country can have a negative impact on business, such as reducing demand for their products and service. They may also have a difficult retaining or hiring worker. So what is consumer? Consumer is a person who loves a job and we call it employed. And employment means the consumer has less purchasing power. This will negatively impact the person's standard of living as much as they can afford before they can afford it now. So unlike the UK, Grenada doesn't provide the employment benefit, so they have to find work and support from other country. So let's continue. Employment could lead to erosion of skills, stripping the economy of useful talent. Furthermore, prolonged employment can prevent families from providing education for their children and thereby rob the economy of these future skills. Study has shown that long-term employment can damage worker mental health and can even damage physical health, thereby limiting life expectancy. So the last one is economy. High employment will eventually reduce the number of taxpayers or their disposable income. When people spend money, it helps stimulate their economy through tax, and why everything is taxed. When people shop, tax go up. However, if employment is high, people will eventually survive on saving or employment benefit from some countries. In this employment continue, people can only buy what they need, not what they want. But lacking purchasing power, companies may be forced to lower the price in order to sell. When it comes to the lowering price in a business, it can lead to low, zero, or negative profit. If this trend is continued, business may be forced to close, leading to an increase in employment. So this is the effect of employment in Grenada.
The Ministry of Finance is responsible for fiscal policy formulation and implementation in Grenada. Due to the lack of an independent monetary policy, because of the common currency and the exchange rate pledged to the US dollar, fiscal policy is one of the main domestic policy instruments that being used. As with other OCS countries, there is still a high dependency on taxes for foreign trades for revenue. 3.1.1 Definition and types. Expansion fiscal policies including tax, cut, rebates and transfer payment, and increased government spending on projects such as infrastructure improvement. For example, it could increase government spending at its discretion, providing the economy with more money through government contracts. Grenada has expansionary fiscal policy for 2021 that forced monetary authorities to be accommodative to fund increased government spending. Therefore, the Monetary Policy Committee noted that the country expansionary fiscal inflationary pressures on the country 2021 national budget has the potential for expansionary impact on the money supply, which limits the scope for the tightening monetary policy. 3.1.2 Tools. 1. Increase short-term interest rate. Interest rates are the main central bank monetary policy tool. Commercial banks can usually take out short-term loans from central banks to meet short-term liquidity shortage. The central bank indirectly targets activity by impacting the money supply through adjustment to interest rate, bank reserve requirements, and the purchase and foreign exchange. Governments impact the economy by changing the level and type of taxes, the extent and composition of spending, and the level and form of borrowing. Governments directly and literally impact the way resources are used in the economy.
Monetary policy. Monetary policy is a government policy on money supply and credit creation aimed at achieving higher economic growth, stability in price, and full employment. Monetary policy means government should implement expansionary monetary policy to increase money supply using the following instruments. There are many types of monetary policy. One of example of such monetary policy is open market operation. The central bank buys government securities, short-term bonds, or treasury bills in the open market from the public to increase money supplies. Hence, consumption and investment will increase, increasing aggregate demand and production and reducing legal unemployment. Lowering the required reserve ratio in unemployment, the central bank will lower the required reserve ratio of all commercial banks. This will increase the ability of commercial banks to provide loans and hence increase money supply to stimulate economic growth and reduce unemployment. Other types of monetary policy is lowering the base lending rates or bank rates or discount rate. The central banks lower the bank rates and hence makes loan less costly to borrow, and firms will increase investment by employing more workers. Next, lowering the interest rate. The central bank will direct the commercial banks to lower their interest rates for deposit so as to encourage the public to spend. This will increase the aggregate demand and production and hence decrease the legal unemployment. Quantitative monetary policy tool. Quantitative tools include open market operation, change in reserve requirements, and change in bank interest rate. Their goal is to control the total amount of loans from commercial banks. Next, change in required reserve ratios at bank scale. Apart from that, the bank ratio policy (BRP) is an important financial tool that influences the credit equality of a country. Qualitative monetary policy tools. Central bank use qualitative tools, either selective or direct monetary policy tools, to manage certain types of credits. These tools affect the compositions, not the size, of commercial banks' loan portfolios. In addition, direct credit controls are used in bank lending to control speculative and hoarding activity within the economy and to limit the unsound expansion of some selective credit. In this part, Grenada's total money supply growth has been modest over the period. The money supply increased on average throughout the year, driven by a surge in the banking system net foreign assets. Central government's net debt to the banking system fell in 2019. In the first half of 2019, the weighted average interest rate on deposit decreased by 0.12 percentage point to 2.55 at the end of June 2019, while the weighted average interest rates on loans decreased by 9.7%. As a result, the weighted average interest rate spread in June 2019 was 6.52%, the same as in 2018. Growth in private sector lending since 2018 as Grenada's national banks are cautious about continuing lending, especially mortgages. Stricter standards in turn. The country of Grenada is involved in trade and investment flows. The export of goods in the country of Grenada is focused on agricultural products. Agricultural exports account for about 55.5% of total exports. About 13% of total imports are foods and minerals, and 21% are food and agricultural products. Machinery and transport imports account for about 60% of total imports. The result is higher consumption and investment, higher aggregate demand and production, and lower cyclical unemployment.
The direct control of unemployment is training and technical education, development of new land, and job creation in various sectors in an economy. Training and technical education is more training and education should be provided for individuals when face difficult securing jobs. It is because when individuals upgrade their skill and increase their level of knowledge, therefore they will find a job easily. For example, the Grenada government should do a training and technical education for the unemployment, so with that, they will find job easily. Next is development of new land is developing. New land can create more job opportunities, especially for those who live in the rural area. For example, Festa Rita are among the government agencies that develop new land and constantly reduce the employment problem and reduce the rural migration. This is because now there will be more job opportunity in the rural area itself. And people who live in the rural area can easily bring their employee and do not have to migrate to the urban area in order to work. Last is competition in various sectors in an economy is more job opportunity can be created if the diversification in an economy such as transportation, finance, insurance, service, tourism, manufacturing, construction need to be expanded. Therefore, it will create more jobs and this will correct the unemployment problem. Move to the tools. The tools of direct control of Grenada is the Grenada government can do training and education. The aim is to give the long-term employment new skill, which is enable them to find job developing industry and retain unemployment still workers to have a basic energy. With this skill will help them find work in the service sector. However, despite providing education and training schema, the unemployment may be unable and unwilling to learn new skills. At best, it will take several years to reduce unemployment. The second is teachers' benefit requirement. Government of Canada could take a more productive role in making the unemployment accept a job of risk losing benefit. After a certain period, the government could take the guarantee a public sector of job. For example, Guinea State. This could significantly reduce unemployment. However, it may means the government end up employing thousands of people in unappreciated tasks, which is very expensive. Also, if you make it difficult to claim benefit, you may reduce the claim count. The third is improved geophysical mobility. The Grenada government shows often unemployment is more concentrated in certain regions. To overcome this geophysical employment, the government could give a tax break to firms who set up in depressed area. Alternatively, they can provide finance assistance to employed workers who move to area with a high employment. For example, help renting in Grenada. Okay, last is maximum working weeks. It has been suggested in the maximum working weeks. For example, 25 hours will lead to firms needing to hire more workers and reduce unemployment. So, the Canada government should follow the other countries who made the maximum working weeks to reduce the unemployment. For example, the South Africa, they do not working 24 hours. It have made to the turn to the shift.
Here is my conclusion of unemployment in Grenada. Based on what we study on the country of Grenada, there are some suggestions that we can give to reduce the unemployment problem in the Grenada. The first one, for example, if this unemployment is due to the problem of lack of young workers, we can propose scholarship. There are many young persons are graduating from secondary and tertiary level college and are finding it difficult to find a job. The job market is very competitive out there since we are living in globalized economy and is a member of CSME. To help curb the unemployment situation temporarily, the government should assist in providing scholarship to the young who are willing to further their education instead of sitting down home doing nothing. Next, the government can increase the scope of employment. This is based on the research we did. Among the problems that result in unemployment is the lack of job scope. So, the government can further enrich the job scope in all companies to give the people the opportunity to work. Additionally, we can concentrate on training and education. Young people should be taught how to prepare for the working world, because it is true that not everyone in country can be entrepreneur and not everyone possesses the quality of an entrepreneur. A few secondary school like Sir Jobs Convent Commercial incorporate this formal training into their curricula. Many schools only concentrate on the subject that needs to be taught, not on preparing students for the working world. This makes it difficult for many young people, even those who are qualified for a position, to adapt the reality of the workplace. Lastly, the government can develop a suitable retirement plan for senior citizens. Most retirees will be encouraged to go home and enjoy the retirement benefit rather than continuing in the workforce if the government creates an alluring package for them. A country problems are not made any easier by the large number of people who are past retirement age but stay employed and receive a salary and pension. Next, I would like to talk about my comment of overall this unemployment in Grenada. Our opinion on this issue is that individuals should develop a variety of skills, such as the capacity of anticipate to a future event, because we can never be certain of them, compromise and build networks in order to make themselves more marketable. This is especially important because there is currently no viable solution to the problem of rising unemployment among individuals. The criticism of employers that young people lack the necessary skill and experience should be stopped is something that our group agree on. But the issue was complicated because different parties had opposing view on unemployment. Besides that, the government need to find opportunity to open up job opportunity for young people to gain skill and even stimulate the country economy. Here, my recommendation to solve unemployment in Grenada. You can increase human capital through education and training as a long-term approach to increase labor productivity and make the workforce more employable. Reduce employment tax as well to boost the labor market. For instance, a decrease in contribution to national insurance. In order to keep aggregate demand strong and promote the creation of a new employment, we need stimulate demand from both the public and private sector. Enhance export competitiveness to pump demand into the income cycling process. Additionally, enhancing work incentive by making employment pay in order to decrease release on benefit and increase the size of the labor supply.